and welcome to another video. Today I would like to talk about a couple of summer top knitting patterns. So the past couple of weeks I've spent a lot of time looking, scavenging through the interwebs, looking at my own knitting pattern collection for some summer knits that I thought would be fun to knit up this summer. Yeah, so I thought it would be fun to share a couple of these on YouTube. The ones that I would like to talk about today, I've actually read through the patterns, and so I'll also be talking about the construction. The only thing is that I can't really vouch for the knitting experience because I haven't knit them, but yeah, maybe it will give you some inspiration. I don't know. And I'm sure that I'll knit some of these at some point. So there might be a knitting vlog coming on some of these patterns. So yeah, I have a nice mix of vintage, some modern, some patterns written in different languages. So let's get right into it. First up, I have the Tulia vest. This is a free pattern that you can find on the Mayflower website. So Mayflower is a Danish yarn company and they offer a ton of free knitting patterns. The only caveat is that they are, for the most part, exclusively in Danish. However, I think that if you use some Google as well as a knitting glossary or dictionary, you'll be able to find your way with at least this pattern, as it's not that complicated. So yeah, I think if you're a bit experienced with knitting tops, you should be able to find your way. And I do know of one free knit glossary dictionary. Drops offers one online, and I think, yeah, a ton of languages, definitely from Danish to English. So I'll leave a link to that in the description box, as well as a link to this pattern. So yeah, let's talk about the construction, the pattern. So this is a DK weight sleeveless top, and the construction is as follows. You start at the top of the back and you just knit all the way down until you've reached the point for some armhole shaping. You do some increases and then you put all of your stitches on hold. Then you pick up stitches on one side for the sleeve. You do the neck shaping here. You do the same thing for the other sleeve. Then you connect them at the neck, the front center, and then you knit all the way down again until you've reached the section for armhole shaping. You do the armhole shaping and then you pick up the stitches from the back and then you knit in the round all the way down. And then for the finishing, you do an I-cord edge at the bottom, the sleeves, and then at the top. So yes, like I said, fairly straightforward, not too complex construction. I would like to make this in 100% cotton. The original yarn used for this piece is Mayflower Rimini, which is a DK weight yarn made out of 67% lyocell and 33% polyamide. I myself would love to make this with cotton. And in terms of construction, I think the only modification that I would like to make is just knitting the front and the back completely separate and then seaming at the end, just because it would be made from cotton and I would like to prevent the top from biasing at one point, which I heard tends to happen if you use fibers such as cotton, knitting them in the round. Yes. So next up is a pattern from a Japanese book that I bought last summer. It's secondhand. I'm not too sure from which year exactly this book is, but judging from the back, I'm guessing the 80s. So yeah, the book itself is called amimono no ichinense, so first year knitting student. And yeah, so basically this was a series that came out a couple of decades ago, where in each book they showed you how to make one particular piece of knitwear. In this one, it's the ladies bobari ami harunatsu no poro seta. So the ladies knitted spring summer polo shirt. Yeah, so basically it just shows you how to knit from start to finish as a beginner a polo. And then they offer up, well, you have the first version here at the front, and then here you have 4 more versions with some, I think this is some, yeah, this is some cabling, some pearls, some lace, and some more pearls. And I would like to make a polo using this book. I'm not too sure exactly which version I might do. I have been leaning on doing something a bit more simple. I thought this would be nice, a couple of pearls here and there, but I think I might actually just go for this version here, and maybe I just do a couple of pearl lines at the top and not do that for the sleeves. Yes, so as for the construction, you start off at the back. Yeah, you do a provisional cast on. I found that a lot of knitting patterns, Japanese knitting patterns, like to use provisional cast ons. But yeah, you use a provisional cast on, you work up, do the armhole shaping, and then you work up straight again, and then you do the shoulder shaping. You do essentially the same for the front. However, since it's a polo, you split here, leaving the stitches here on hold, and then you knit both sides separately. Yes, and then once you've done that, you come back to your provisional cast on, and then you do the ribbing. After that is done, what do you do? Yes, then after that, the sleeves are done in a similar way, provisional cast on. Let me show you here how the sleeve looks. Yeah. You start off with a couple of increases, and then you do you shape the sleeve cap. That's the word I was looking for. You shape the sleeve cap, then you come back again and take out the provisional cast on, and then you knit in the opposite direction, doing 1 by 1 rib. Or is it 1 by 1 rib? Yeah. It is 1 by 1 rib. Also for the body as well, you do 1 by 1 rib. So when that is done, then you start picking up stitches at the sides, at the front, to do a 1 by 1 rib button band. So you knit in this direction and in this direction. You make some buttonholes as well. And once that is done, you pick up stitches for the collar here, and then you do a 1 by 1 ribbed collar. So you can see how this is already looking. You seam the sides, and then you seam the sleeves as well. So actually, I'm not too fond of how the sleeve cinches in, so I might just decide not to do any how would I say it? Yeah, you actually do increases at the start of the sleeve. I think I might just start with the stitch count that is at the sleeve here. So yes, I think that's about it for it. Yeah, so obviously this is a set in sleeve polo. The original yarn that was used is discontinued. It's really old. It's called Ski Yarn Festa. And I wrote down the composition here. It's 45% cotton and 55% plastic polysonic. No idea what that is, but I'm guessing it's just some polyamide. Yeah, and I was planning on doing this with 50% wool, merino wool, I think, and 50% cotton in a light blue color, which is in my stash. So the third pattern is a Finnish one, and it's called Rannalle-kietaisutoppi, and it is essentially just a sleeveless beach wrap top. It's a free pattern from Novita. Just like Mayflower, Novita is a yarn company and they offer lots of free patterns. I do know that they have actually a substantial amount of English ones as well, but I just searched their Finnish website and I found a bunch of cool ones, including this one. The nice thing about their patterns as well is that they offer schematics, and so that definitely helps if you don't know the language, just like me. So the way the pattern is constructed is actually quite interesting. You go bottom to top and then from top to bottom. So you start off at the back, casting on, you do a couple of increases for the shaping. Then once you come to the armholes, you do the armhole shaping, you go up, you cast off sleeves at the center, creating the straps, and then you knit to the top of your shoulders. And that's when you have to put in markers to show where the front starts, so you can make sure that the counts that you have are correct. So then you knit downwards, you do the increases for the wrap essentially, and you also do increases for the armhole shaping. So you do that each side separately, of course. So once you've reached the desired length, you cast off and then you create an I-cord. Yeah, you create a really long I-cord and you do that for both sides, and then you essentially have your wrap. Oh, I do have to say though, yes, once you reach the armhole shaping, you actually knit the back and the front completely separate, and then you seam the sides at the end. So that's something that I'm definitely going to be doing. As for the shoulders, I think once I've reached the length for the shoulders at the back, I'm going to cast off and either just cast on the front pieces separately or pick up stitches just for that extra structure. Because when you think about it, a knit piece hangs off of your shoulders. So if you put a shoulder seam here, you provide your piece with more structure, and so it will last longer. So that's my plan. I don't know if I might go back and do something for the sleeves, because there is actually no finishing in, there's no finishing there. I might go in with an I-cord, but I'm not too sure about that. As for the yarn that is used in the pattern, you actually use 2 strands, one fingering weight merino yarn, and then another lace weight yarn that is 60% mohair and then 40% viscose. I was thinking of using 2 lace weight-ish fingering weight yarn silk that I got, some recycled silk that I bought in Japan. I actually happened to be knitting up a tiny swatch for it this morning. So it's this lovely blue color. I was not too sure about what to make with this silk yarn for quite a long time. I thought the blue was quite bold, and I didn't really know what to do, but I think I'm gonna give this one a go. So that's everything on the finish pattern. I now have a vintage British crochet pattern. Yeah, I said that this was knitting, but I have actually, surprise, one crochet pattern. And this is a 70s crochet pattern from sirdar, or sirdar, sirdar. Yeah, so they offer a ton of their vintage patterns all the way from the 30s up until the 90s, and all of them go for £3.50. So I found this waistcoat. The pattern is called sirdar number 5181, and I have to be honest, I'm not too sure about this pattern in terms of construction, because the way I learned how to crochet was with Japanese patterns, and they only use schematics. And then I started crocheting using some American patterns, and this is a British pattern, and the terms are quite different. So it took me some time to get a basic understanding. So yeah, I'll give it my best try. So basically what you do is you knit 3 strips of granny squares, 2 strips of 8 granny squares, and then 1 of 4. And the way the waistcoat is constructed is that the 2 long ones just go here from the front all the way to the back, and then the 1 of 4 granny squares goes at the center back. And so once you've finished crocheting all those strips, you use a shell crochet pattern to attach them at the back, and then also here at the sides. After you've done that, you use the shell crochet pattern again for the left and right front border. And so basically you have then the top part of your waistcoat. And then once you've done that, you again use that shell motif and you make the peplum that is at the bottom. And then finally you just use 2 strands of yarn to make a twisted cord, and then you lace that through the front. Yeah, so that's kind of like a rough outline of the pattern. I actually did find that someone is selling the pattern on Etsy, and I read about 1 or 2 reviews, and one person actually said that they were a bit of a beginner crocheter? Is that how you say it? And yeah, they tried out this pattern, and it took some time, but they got there eventually. So yeah, I think that this pattern will actually be quite doable. So the last pattern is an American vintage mid-1940s knitting pattern from the book Jack Frost Blouse Book Volume 28. And I actually did some research into this company, Jack Frost Yarn Company. Just like many other yarn companies, put out a ton of knitting patterns to promote their yarn. And in my opinion, they offered a ton of really flattering pieces, especially from the 1940s. Many of these patterns are actually freely available on freevintageknitting.com, I believe. I'll leave a link to that in the description down below. I believe that website offers 3 women's blouse volumes. This volume in particular, volume 28, was actually not on the website, and so I managed to find someone on Etsy selling PDFs. But yeah, the pattern that I would like to show is called Rosemonde, and it was initially knit with a fingering weight cashmere yarn. I myself would like to knit this with some cotton. The reason why I wanted to knit this was basically because it's just a very plain set-in sleeve tee with a cute little pocket. I was just really looking for a basic tee. So yeah, the construction is pretty straightforward. Everything is knit flat. So you start off with 1 by 1 rib at the back. Once you've done that, you increase for the body. Then you do some armhole shaping once you've reached your desired length. And then you knit all the way up. You do your regular shoulder shaping, which in a lot of vintage patterns is just casting off frequently. So every row you cast off, I believe, 8 stitches. The front is done in a similar fashion. However, once you've reached above your chest, you actually cast off a number of stitches for the pocket, and then on the next row you cast on that same number of stitches, and then you knit all the way up, do the shoulder shaping, etc., etc. So yes. Once that is done, you seam the shoulders. Yes, you seam at the shoulders, and then you start picking up stitches for the sleeve. And this sleeve construction is interesting to me because I've actually never done this. Basically, what you do, instead of doing short rows, you actually pick up stitches, and just a number of stitches here at the shoulder, and then every row you pick up more and more stitches, which essentially does the same thing as short rows. Yeah. And so you do that flat, and then you keep on knitting flat. You do the 1 by 1 ribbing again flat, and then afterwards you seam everything. So yeah, once you've done the side seams and everything, it's mostly done. You only have this hole here at your chest, and what you're supposed to do is you pick up stitches from the cast on edge, and then you knit downwards. So that will be the back of the pocket. And so you kind of decide where you would like to have, or how deep you would like the pocket to be. Then you cast off. Then you take the cast off edge here at the front and you do some 1 by 1 rib, and then you cast off again. You seam the sides here for the 1 by 1 rib, and then you seam the back of the pocket to the front of your tee, and then you basically have a pocket. So yeah, I thought that was a pretty neat way to make a pocket. I do think that I would like to modify this. So what I was thinking was that just like in the original pattern, you cast off for the pocket, but beforehand you already knit up the backside of the pocket. And so instead of casting on new stitches here, you actually just put the live stitches of the backside of the pocket, you put that on your needle, and then you knit those. And so you don't have to pick up from the cast on edge when you come back to knit the back of the pocket, if that makes any sense. I mean, like I said before, there's a high probability that if I make this pattern that I will be documenting the process, and a knitting vlog will come up on that, so you'll have a clearer view of what I meant. But yeah, that's everything that I would like to share today with regards to these knitting patterns. Oh, yes, thank you very much for watching. Let me know which patterns seemed interesting, or which patterns you're planning to knit up this summer. I would love to hear. In any case, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I hope to see you soon in another video. Bye bye!